the Chiro Business Mojo podcast, where we deconstruct the methods, marketing, and mindset of successful business people and chiropractors from around the world. And now your host, Dr. Richard Day.
Dr. Stuart Hoffman is a 1981 graduate of Life University who for the past 35 years has worked passionately to assist others in their journey toward optimum health, both in his private practice and as a teacher and direct consultant in the chiropractic community. His contributions have been widespread as he's held numerous positions at both the state and national levels. He's lectured throughout the United States and written articles appearing in many professional journals. Dr. Hoffman has been the recipient of numerous awards, most recently the 2015 ICA Chiropractor of the Year Award. He is co-founder of several organizations, including IamLovableMe.com, OneChiropractic.org, and ChiroSecure, an insurance company offering chiropractic malpractice coverage and more. Welcome, Dr. Stuart Hoffman. Feel free to jump in there and fill in any gaps I may have missed in your bio.
No, that was terrific, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today. And I guess I would just, if adding anything to those kind words, I would say, I've had experience on both ends of the spectrum. Yes, I run a malpractice insurance program for chiropractors all over the country, but having owned multiple chiropractic offices, having almost 50 associates over the last 35 years, I've experienced how things work in the chiropractic profession on many different levels. So it just gives me a little bit of what I would hope to say is a unique perspective when I get to talk to a group or individual chiropractors around the country.
Well, great. I'm excited to hear your insights. So let's dive right in. Why don't you tell me about ChiroSecure?
Well, ChiroSecure, we are a relationship-driven company. We're not coming out of the 1940s or 1950s in how we do business. Relationships with doctors are everything to us, but also relationships with the chiropractic colleges, relationships with state boards, national associations, but we also have maintained really good relationships with some of the top leaders in the entire profession. And I'm proud of the fact that we've been able to be in that arena with so many quality people that are making a difference, not just in our profession, but to help our profession propel and help people all over the world.
Was there a need that you saw that was unfulfilled in the landscape of insurance companies that were providing this type of coverage to chiropractors? Or what was it about that you saw that prompted you to start ChiroSecure?
Well, it was about 25, 26 years ago now, maybe 27 even, that I was putting on conventions in Michigan for the association there. And I was asked to put on a risk management seminar because a lot of us received discounts through the carrier that we had at that point in time. And through all of the work that I had done to make things happen, the new president of the International Chiropractors Association had asked me to find out, investigate, and help create a malpractice program for the ICA doctors. And somehow, before fax machines and, home computers, we were able to make that happen. And I did it as more of a committee structure. But over the years, what we found was that we needed to open it up to more than the ICA doctors, because a lot of the doctors, especially at that time, there was not a lot of, let's call it, competition in our marketplace. And people were supporting groups that we were philosophically on a different level with. And we found that the doctors were also having different challenges as time went on. And still to this day, the challenges change, which has been one of the things that I hang my hat on most, is our ability to be a leader in what we're offering and how we're educating and coaching doctors when it comes to malpractice and risk management, because times do change.
Absolutely. We've been in about 10 years, and just in that short period, we've seen changes, not only in the healthcare industry as a whole, but chiropractic.
For sure. And, things keep changing at lightning speed in society in general. In chiropractic, we don't need to, well, in my opinion, we don't need to or want to change the principles we were even founded on, but we do need to adapt to our changing environment, just like we educate patients about their internal environment. As chiropractors, we need to adapt to society and be able to get our message out to a younger generation that's all digital. So, there are so many different things to consider, but the healthcare marketplace is a totally changed environment. And think about this. In the next year to year and a half, there are going to be medical homes through Obamacare or group homes, however you want to phrase it. Well, in the law, chiropractors are included in those homes. How many chiropractors do you know that even know about it, let alone have teamed up to be able to be in that environment as one of the options of how to practice in the 21st century? That, again, doesn't take away from your principles, your education, or how you take care of patients, but it's a whole different marketplace. Rather than being outside of the entire marketplace, there's an inroad to get to so many more prospective patients, and most chiropractors don't even know about it.
Yeah, I certainly didn't know about it or realize it. Now, when you say home, do you mean house calls?
No. Thank you for saying that. It's really, without getting into too heavy of an answer on this, the group homes are really meaning a group of healthcare practitioners that all oversee a certain population and theoretically get to work together for the good of the patient.
Wow. That sounds like an incredible opportunity for practicing chiropractors. And like you said, most of us have never even heard of this.
And we want to get to a greater percentage of the population. So these are the types of things, because of my involvement on different political spectrums, with associations, just keeping up. We do this because I feel it's a responsibility that we have to be that leader in the profession on behalf of all of our doctors that we take care of.
Let me ask you this. You are in the risk management business. What is the number one thing that you see chiropractors do that are putting themselves at risk and they may not even know it?
Great question. Historically, doctors of chiropractic, on the more conservative side especially, but I think it used to be as a general rule, documentation has never been our strong point. It's gotten a lot better. Remember, most of us are adapting to changing times because it's now more mandated, more necessary, and easier in some respects due to electronic health records. But a lot of the doctors that I talk to seem to think that if it's a cash patient or a staff member or a friend, you don't have to document, or you don't have to document so much. And we've seen too many claims of people that were so-called friends or staff that the relationship was great at one time, but when it goes south, you need to be documented, because the number one reason to win or lose a claim is based on your documentation. And when you don't have any, it's very hard to defend the doctor. So that's just one example of things that the doctors either do or don't do that can affect an outcome. I'll give you one other example. If a doctor has a patient that they adjust, and all of a sudden they call me up because I have made it known that I take, as well as one or two other members of our team, take phone calls from the doctors of any incident that arises so we can try and coach them through it and hopefully avoid an actual claim. Or if they have a claim, I still want to be on the front end with them. But sometimes the doctor will call and say, hey, I have a patient. They're on the table. I just adjusted them. They rolled over. They got dizzy. They started vomiting. What do I do? Well, you hang up the phone and you call 911. Sometimes when things go wrong in a chiropractor's office, they're afraid to use the traditional medical facilities because what will other patients think? What will the public think if an ambulance pulls up to my office? Rather than the first thing to be thinking about is, oh my God, I've got to get emergency care to this patient, because especially if they're in a stroke episode, they need emergency care. The sooner the care, everyone knows, the better chance of a good outcome. And that's what's important. And it's not just with that, but we deal with a lot of the stroke challenges getting put association with chiropractors. But these are some of the things that actually come from the chiropractors in terms of calls to us. So there are things to do and think about, some things that the doctors don't think about, and I talk about in my lectures around the country when I try and help teach doctors about risk management, is, hey, take a look around your office. Go sit in your waiting room and see what a patient would experience there. Fill out the forms, walk through, go by the adjusting rooms, the adjusting tables, all of that, because what you'll find is that it's not always the best experience, whether it be cleanliness or things sticking out, sharp edge on an adjusting table, where someone walks by, as we just had, and they actually cut their leg open and need to be sent off to the emergency room to get stitched up. These are simple things that all of us should do, no matter what environment we're in, is you should treat it as if it were your palace and take care of it and go and experience what anyone that walks in your front doors would experience. So those are some things right off the cuff that I would offer up to the listeners today.
Now, the education you're giving myself and our listeners, is that something that ChiroSecure provides for its clientele? In other words, do you have a doctor education program?
Absolutely. So what we do is numerous things. Number one, I'm lecturing all over the country on all of this because, again, it's a responsibility that I feel personally to help doctors, whether they're with us or not, to have a safer practice, what to do if they're accused falsely or not of anything that's gone wrong, and how to not destroy and blow up your entire practice from accusations that you need to work through. So I do these lectures, but through ChiroSecure, we've created an app for whether it be the iPhone or Google apps, whatever system you're on, you can go in and download the ChiroSecure app for free, and you'll get notified of some of the shows that we do by bringing in experts on all risk management topics. And we also put out risk management, short risk management tips that are video that you can get on that same application or through our website at ChiroSecure.com or on Facebook when you like us at ChiroSecure. So we do numerous things all of the time to ensure, no pun intended, the safety of our doctors' practices.
That's great to have out there for our profession. We will be putting all of that information in our show notes so that our listeners can access it.
Yeah, and Rich, just, on the same topic, recognize that, as a malpractice insurance company, I've said a couple of times, I feel certain responsibilities to our doctors as well as our profession. And that's one of the things that I believe makes us unique. And so some of the things that we do is we also, and this is part of what we put out to the doctors, we support a number of research projects, not just the research, by looking up Google stuff and putting it on a website and saying, I'm a researcher out there. No. We not only research the efficacy of chiropractic for musculoskeletal problems, but also research to show how the removal of subluxations increases longevity and human potential. We support a lot of other research that's going on out there, and all of the policies that we sell help fund that type of research. And quite frankly, one of the biggest ones, because of how times have changed. Years ago when we started this, there weren't many stroke allegations against chiropractors. Now there's way too many. And we have hired what I think is the leading expert attorney to research these allegations against chiropractors and find out more about that association of stroke and chiropractic. And we have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to not only get all of this information, but to also utilize that when our doctors come up with one of these allegations to help defend them. And these are the types of things that are important, and we've shared some of this research with the doctors, including, like one simple example that most people don't realize that's in the medical literature. There are over 72 simple movements that are known to cause an arterial dissection. From it being spontaneous, meaning you've done nothing, to sleeping wrong, to yoga, to archery. There's 72 of these known movements. Not one of them say a chiropractic adjustment or manipulation or anything like that. But we're the ones that have uncovered all of this and are not only putting it out and helping the doctors with this information for their patient education, but we're also utilizing this in defending our doctors as well.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, the more ammunition that providers who are in the field seeing patients on a day-to-day basis are armed with, I think they're the ones who are on the front lines who are going to be educating the patients. And you're right, the Stroke Association is out there, and it's wonderful that you're giving back to the profession in such a meaningful way.
Well, thank you. But most important is I want to make sure we do everything possible to change the way that the public views chiropractic, and the doctors need to be part of that movement. And that's what we have going here.
Are you aware of the retrospective study? I just heard about it in the last month or so, but it was done by medical doctors, and I believe it was a retrospective study, and their conclusion was that there was not a link between chiropractic.
That's not exactly what it says. Yes, I'm familiar with all of the studies, and what you're referring to is a very large study showing that there is no significant difference of rate of arterial dissection showing up in an emergency room from a patient that left a chiropractor's office versus a patient that left a medical doctor's office. And that's very important to us. It is not the whole thing, but there are so many other studies that actually have us able to say that a chiropractor cannot cause an arterial dissection in a patient with healthy vessels. There are numerous things to cause them to be unhealthy, and that's not for today's purpose. But chiropractors have not been proven to cause an arterial dissection. Are they associated with them? Is it coincidental timing? Is it that maybe the doctor didn't notice that they were in an episode when they showed up in their office? There's a lot of information out there on all of this. And it's our job to keep the doctors informed, also to change the perception in the public view. And that's what we're trying to do.
Well, I appreciate that. I want to move on to a couple of other things related to ChiroSecure. What is one of the most important things, or one of the newest things, I guess, that's really exciting you about your business today?
Oh, it's definitely that we are, I think, utilizing leading-edge technology to make things work better for chiropractors. And that includes, some of the things that I mentioned in terms of no one else has an app for their doctors, or you don't even have to be one of our doctors to download that app. Some of the things that we're doing are definitely cutting edge with all of this stroke information. We want to make sure that the doctors, don't go down, and therefore we're going to do everything possible to make sure that they can be defended as well as anyone possibly can be defended by having done this research on their behalf. So there's a lot of things that we do. We created on that same line our informed consent, which is a living document, and we update it because our informed consent packet is not just a form. It's also instructions on how to actually implement, but we include all of the research, way more than what you've discussed so far and I've discussed, the most current literature on arterial dissection, and make it easy for the doctors to reference through the summaries that we provide, so that when a doctor is talking to a patient about whether it be informed consent, and a question comes up, or there's an article that shows up in the media, or a television show, the doctor is armed with information to educate rather than be defensive. They can educate with fact rather than feeling. And that's something that I personally believe in.
That's exciting news for chiropractors, I can tell you. The dissemination of information, it's funny, we live in the information age, but sometimes that adds a lot of noise. And it's great to have it at your fingertips, but it sounds like you are breaking it down and kind of giving those value bullet points right within the reach of everybody in a convenient way. And a smartphone, that's great.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm going to shift gears here, and I want to talk about chiropractic in general and the business side of things. You mentioned that you had owned multiple clinics, and had employed a lot of different associates over the years. What single thing do you think that a new doc who's just getting started should do? What would be your first 3 action steps?
Well, I think I do believe in coaches, and I am not one for the doctors, so I can talk with authority on it. I think that there are some great programs out there for new doctors to be able to get up and going in a very expedited way. I think that's really, really important. But I would say directly to those new doctors that what I've seen in terms of the most successful practitioners in our profession seem to be the ones that own why we do what we do, not just the how, but the why. Those that become passionate about what they're actually doing. And all of the administrative things, the things to set up an office, whether it be friends, mentors, or some of these groups that are very specific to new doctors, there's plenty of help available out there. But to me, it's owning the why we do what we do and being as passionate as you can about it, because I believe that is the single driver to get you to do the things that are necessary to educate enough people to build your practice to be more than you can dream of.
Would you say that's also true for the experienced doc who's sort of plateaued and is stuck?
Yeah, I think that there's different challenges for those doctors. And sometimes, I go back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier. It's a changing environment out there. And if you're doing the same thing that you did 25 years ago, I would bet that you'll plateau. But we have to sometimes step back and take a look at how we do what we're doing, readapt to the times we're in, and I think you start to get reinvigorated, excited again, more passionate again, and that's going to drive even the most seasoned practitioner.
Well, what would you say, or what do you see as the number one challenge facing chiropractors today?
I go back, because it's a personal issue to me, I go back to the stroke issue. It has the potential to do a lot of damage to this profession by making the public fearful of going to see a chiropractor. And that's why I said earlier, I take the responsibility to do everything that's possible to make sure that we change the public perception. And if we accomplish that, and I'm confident that we will, I see nothing but a bright future for the chiropractic profession and chiropractors in general, being very, very successful at getting a greater and greater percentage of the population to own what we do and want it for themselves, their families, and everyone that they know. And that's exciting to me. And that's, quite frankly, why we fund all of the research that we do and support so many things in our profession. Because I do believe that chiropractic is something that we should all take very personal. And we need to unify the profession in certain areas. And I have my own beliefs on that. I do not believe in bringing drugs into this profession. I am very opposed to that. There are other professions that have that. We don't need to be everything for everybody. We have certain tenets we were founded on, and I believe that we can help so many people if we get our skills honed in on taking care of the patients with chiropractic in and of itself.
What do you think about integrated practices where you have the MD working alongside with the chiropractic physician?
Yeah, I don't have an opinion on it. I think that if you have medical doctors doing medical procedures and they're needed, great. If you have other practitioners of any type doing what's necessary and needed, great. As long as the chiropractor, in my opinion, is the gatekeeper and the patient receives chiropractic care, quality chiropractic adjusting as the first go, then any ancillary procedures, as long as they're necessary, ethical, I don't really have a problem with if they're going to help that patient get better quicker, and hold their adjustment better. I think that's a good thing. But in general, I'm not involved in multidisciplinary practices, so I don't really have a strong opinion knowing how each one is getting set up.
Well, I certainly agree with your paradigm. All too often I hear stories of, well, I had this little pain, and so I made that appointment with a surgeon, and I believe we've certainly gotten to a point in society where that paradigm needs to be flipped. Let's try everything other than the most extreme measures and see if that doesn't work, we can always look deeper. But, I think any of us who have practiced can tell you a lot of stories like that where people did improve and that surgery or those drugs never had to happen. But it wasn't the first thought in the patient's mind.
Okay, and so here's an example. A different example, not in one facility, but a doctor has a patient who has low neck and mid-back pain, comes to see the chiropractor, comes in for 2 months, has a re-exam, reports great improvement, everything's going great, except the patient had made an appointment with an orthopedist surgeon at the same time. So his appointment came up. he gets sent for an MRI. The MRI shows a little bulging disc in the upper part of his neck. So the surgeon says, good thing you came here. A certain movement any second could cause you to be paralyzed. You need surgery, and I'm going to do it. Never should have let the chiropractor adjust your neck. So the patient comes back to the chiropractor and tells him what the MRI said and what the orthopedic surgeon said. And he wants to know what the doctor's going to do for him. Well, what do you mean? Well, I want you to give me all of my money back. And the doctor's calling me for advice. I said, hell no. The patient went to somebody that sells surgery and is trying to be sold surgery. If he goes to get a second opinion, which he certainly should do, especially since he's a lot better than he was 2 months ago, if he goes and gets a second opinion and another orthopedic surgeon says, well, no, you don't really need surgery, do you really think that patient's going to go back to the orthopedist and say, well, he said I didn't need surgery. I want my money back from you for the MRI and for, your services. That never, ever, ever happens. But they feel it's their right to go to the chiropractor because a medical doctor had a different point of view. And so I shared with our doctor how to reconnect with the patient and educate them on a lot of this information in a way that's not offensive or belittling to the patient, but to make it real. And that's the danger we've always had and the fear chiropractors have of referring out to other types of practitioners because that's the kind of response that's all too common. And no one should have to put up with that because, quite frankly, that's not in the patient's best interest. That's a political thing that the orthopedist had to say, that they don't know anything that they're talking about because chances are they do not know what the chiropractor did or would even do, but it's something that they heard: chiropractor bad, orthopedic good, surgery yes. And I'm appalled by that. And that's why we coach our doctors and try and fight on their behalf.
Well, that's great. Oftentimes the words, if we've never been in the situation, we don't know how to say that best to a patient. And I like when you said that the doc was able to sort of talk the patient through it and bring them back over to what the chiropractor was saying and why he was doing what he was doing. So what a great service you provide. Most of us learned a lot of how to talk to patients either correctly or incorrectly on the job. And I would say, in my experience, we do a lot right, but helping people from the outset, before they get in those situations, would certainly be a benefit.
Right, and communication skills can always be improved. I'm going to say it in that way. And that's part of the reason that the doctors call us, is because the communication broke down somewhere along the line, and we try and help them to fix it.
I want to shift gears as we head down the home stretch here and get a little more broad and general. Let's just talk about success. Do you have a favorite success quote?
Well, I go back to B.J. Palmer. It's not about success quote. It's about inspiring people. And that is, you never know how far-reaching something you may think, say, or do today will affect the lives of millions tomorrow. And I believe that wholeheartedly. And that's something that drives me and why we do what we do.
Are there any particular habits or rituals or things that you do daily that have been part of your success?
Well, I can only tell you that, clearing your mind and having the intent to be of service to other people is really important to me. And I think that, having a good work ethic, we have in our company, we have 76 employees. And in our office here, I'm generally the first person in way early in the morning, and I am not anything but the last to leave. So I like to come in early, get myself ready, get things done when it's still quiet, and then be able to get on with what presents itself during the course of the day. And I think that's important no matter what you do in life.
Well, as someone who was not naturally born a morning person, I have worked on that, and finally I'm at a place now where I can be a very effective morning person, and it took some self-training and discipline to get to that point, but I would certainly agree with you. I plan things out the night before and the week before as well, and make sure I get up early, and I oftentimes find I have accomplished more before I've gone into the office than a lot of people have, by the time they go home that night. Those types of habits, like I said, have not come easily to me, but I've certainly seen a difference.
That's awesome.
Is there a single book you'd like to recommend to anybody?
No, I not really. I think that everyone has their own calling when it comes to that, and things that they will be attracted to. I like The Power of One, but I think that the right message will show up for the right person at the right time. That's my belief.
And what's the best way for people to contact you to find out more about your services, products, insurance?
Yeah, I think that our 800 number is easy. It's actually an 866 number, 866-802-4476. But people can also go to Facebook and like us at ChiroSecure or ChiroSecure.com. And like I said, they can download our app on their smartphone as well.
Dr. Hoffman, it has been an honor and a pleasure to speak with you today. I can't thank you enough for being a part of our show and educating myself and our listeners. The work you're doing is so important, and I learned a lot today. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Chiro Business Mojo podcast at www.chirobusinessmojo.com.